Do you identify when you think of yourself, or maybe when you were younger? Did you identify more as like a pure writer, as opposed to like, you know, doing murals or doing more fine art in the studio and stuff like that, or do you not make a distinction?
I don't I don't make a distinction, but I look at the like murals are actually right halfway in the middle. So graffiti is graffiti and art is art, and I think they both have had their golden age in a sense. Like the golden age of graffiti happened before I ever started writing. And the golden age of art to me for the kind of art I like is like I don't know, like the Renaissance. So I've always liked both of those traditions completely separately, and I think an advantage of being like, the original writers, they created, they like crowdsourced a vocabulary, a visual vocabulary that everybody that grew up after that inherited. There's like, you don't really, you can make a contribution, I guess, but it's like gonna pale in comparison to everything that's been done before. So I kind of try to operate in between the two of them, but paying legitimate respect to each of those traditions. Like, I'll just try and practice my drawing skills, not to make like painting that has some impact or something, but just to get, because that's a craft that you should practice. In the same way that I'll practice my tag over and over again. Like, these are, if you want to operate in the middle, you gotta hold the ends down and make sure that you're always like focused on the ends. And we're lucky enough that the ends are pretty much like, in terms of like a golden standard, we have them. So you can combine any things you want. And
So you see more similarities.
I think they're really. I think the similarity between like traditional art and graffiti is actually bigger than the similarities between modern art and graffiti, because modern art is not really there's not like a tradition. Like, you look at, if you guys go to like an art fair or like a modern art museum, everything looks different from everything else.
Yeah.
Like, I know there's different styles of graffiti, but there's also just some like kind of agreed upon structures that everyone is making variations of, or you're breaking those rules. But that's more similar to like representational painting. I honestly think it's why graffiti has such like a broad appeal to people right now, is because it's not entirely arbitrary, and a lot of shit is.
Do you try to, a lot of writers, they when they do their graph, it's just for other writers. It's not necessarily for other people who can't read it or other people who don't understand or anything like that. Your stuff is very legible for the most part. Is that on purpose? Is it for other people besides just writers to be able to read and understand, specifically when you do other words, but it's in the exact same style as if you were doing DISTORT?
I don't know if I really like separate that out in my head like that. I think what I try and kind of keep my balance on is just that I paint on things, and all those other contexts to me, it's a little bit like I'm going to lean more towards, let's say it's like a train line spot. I know the train's going really fast. I'm going to space shit out more. Let's say it's like some cutty spot that you're stuck in traffic in. I'm going to like make it a little more complicated. Like, the audience is not necessarily like on my mind as much as all these other factors are.